This is day 744 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you like responsible to share more of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please come to me directly. You very greatly appreciate it. Today we're doing Tafnun Gimel Gimel to Tafnun Zayin Ches. Gimel. The measure of how much, how large the dough can be, one is saron at a time, was in their days, when they had small ovens. But now that they are big ovens, it's better to make a bigger batter. They did not see the point of him. I and Shum. Klomar, meaning the show at the time, Xerazu, the reason for this Xera is because in the kneading of the dough, you might tarry too long. But because you can't fit a large batter into the oven. So makes us he's going to have to wait for part of the batter until the previous batter is baked. In the course that can come chametz. But a big oven, adif yoser isagodola. It's better than to use a big dough, a big batter of dough. Because when it's full of bread, it bakes better. Perhaps that's the reason why there are those who do need more than what we mentioned previously. But they rejected that. Because the issue is that we're concerned that in the course of working the dough, you might tarry a bit and become chametz. Sharatzin says that, Chok Yaakov says that if you made more than 3 kav in one batter, that's inappropriate. You have to protest and prevent this. And perhaps even with the evidence, also going to everybody. This is, of course, per person, right? If you have hand matzah factories and many people working many doughs, so it's not each person has one batter to work at a time. The Shmuel says some place can make because in our day, when they bake matzahs with many workers and also with large ovens, very large ovens, and you do the lisha and the richa and the fio in great haste, it's certainly not going to come to chimutz. And the world is accustomed to follow this opinion. And we should not protest against them because they have what to rely on. And Machmir like the first opinion, even in our day, especially in small communities. Okay. If you take a measure which holds the shir of chal, you should fill it up to the rim without heaping any on top. It has to be smoothed on top and not piled up. If it's piled up, it's going to be more than shir chal and more than the quota. The shir kasar rabbein rabbi said to shir mikemach chito mitzvis tav kav chav dram. If it's Egyptian wheat flour, it's 520 drams. Mitzrayim mikiruf, approximately. Flow down a shir zeh. We don't know exactly what the shir is. This shir 520 drams. I just look, I know this conversion to the table is correct at all, especially because a dram is a more liquid measure, not a solid measure, at least the way it's understood here. But on the unit converter from translatorscafe.com, 520 dram is equal to 65 U.S. fluid ounces, which would be obviously a little bit more than converted into volume of it would be pounds. It would be a little bit more than 4 pounds. But I think the customary share is assumed to be 5 pounds. So I'm not sure about this. Anyway, you should not push down the flour in the measure. It's not going to get then kneaded properly. Chemically, it's about lot of shield. It'll become the flour will become cooked. It's going to make it become chametz. So you should scatter it into the measure like people who sell it, in order to be like stents. You shouldn't put your hand on the flour. You shouldn't put your hand on it even if you're not making it you're not trying to get more than shir challah into the vessel. The Mishabur writes that the poskim are makbid not to do more than this when they're lush, when they're doing a lot of doughs, because in other words, you shouldn't keep it up at all if you're doing many doughs, because then you'll join them off for challah afterwards. So if you're doing one batter, so then you should keep it up a bit in order to make sure you have definitely the shir challah. and that's um, right, yeah. The law, but Arukh HaShulchan does not hold you should do that. Just says you should not keep it up at all. Looking if it's your intent is to get more in, it's certainly also it's best to say when you put in the flour, also when you put in the water, into the flour, the shem matzahs mitzvah, you're doing it for the purpose of the matzahs mitzvah. Hey, alpha of beyond the Kemelisha, you're not allowed to measure flour for kneading. We come over beyond the Pesach. Nonetheless, if you are baking on the under Pesach mutalim dot, it's permissible to measure in order you shouldn't bake more than the shirchal. Mitzvah, that's measuring with the word of mitzvah. Yeshosim, but some people forbid this. They because there's no reason to measure it. It's a little bit more, a little bit less. It's not an impediment. You should take according to estimate. And that is the custom to estimate the volume, not to try and measure it precisely. Simon Tov Nun Zayin. Kate said, no, again, by first is challah b'matzah. How do you do taking off the challah when you are baking matzah? Aleph. You came to us since you're not allowed to bake more than the measure of challah. And of course, that means you bake a little bit less. Kain ain b'chol isa shirchal, the way the Mishnah Berurah pointed out before. You open each and every batter the shirchal. What's the first shirchal? You cannot take half of it. Shemetan rafish below brachim near suffix. So maybe say we'll take out without a bracha because of the suffix. That's not possible. Because many, then you're going to put several matzahs from several batches into one vessel. And that vessel will join together with challah. According to the letter of the law, then Mechayim challah. That's just a chumrah. He's going to think he already took challah. But if you didn't have each one in the proper shear, the challah originally took was nothing. So Shochel Teva is going to come out eating stuff from which challah has not been taken. Shouldn't separate challah from each dough in and of itself, but rather, so what you do, there are many people involved in making several doughs. You take two of the doughs of two of the workers, became zebezubazu, and connected to each other in mixas to a certain extent, because the avoid we are there, as necessary, in order to consider being one batch. This discussion, if they're hard batches, you have them actually overlap on each other, not just be side to side. Take from both of them challah, make the bracha, and toss it into the oven. The Mishnah Berurah says if that it's not possible to put them together properly, I guess, if it's a hard dough, and therefore you should rely on siruf kli. Putting in the same vessel makes them one dough, or by covering with a cloth, covering all those batters with a cloth, makes them all one batter for the purpose of challah. Shantian says in a normal dough, there are those who have custom to cut from both doughs together. It seems to be superfluous. Yaakov says it's possible because sometimes the doughs are tough and they don't get connected so well. And by the strength of the cutting of both of them, they get joined together. It's a cute story. Okay. However, it's very difficult to take off challah from the dough. Because the time is under great stress. Because maybe the dough is going to come chametz. To take off from the dough. Never as a matzah nogu so the matzah nigi saws every way is minhag lafrish achar hafiyah meitan is better to take off the challah after the baking in order to avoid any chametz issues. Base Kate said yes. So what do? You take hama isos, you put several batches. The matzah which is baked with several batches, into one basket, or into any other vessel which has rims, as opposed to a flat surface, which says a suffix if it's mitzaref what's on top of it. And this is what we hold that some mitzaref challah k'malisha. The basket or the container joins together for the purpose of challah, just like the kneading. You told challah mi matzah achas, take challah from one matzah. It's a kulam, that'll be enough for all of them. You have to be careful that the matzahs don't extend out over the rims of the vessel. Those who are outside the rooms of the container, and some are from the container does not join together. So unless you put a sheet on top of it, which will envelop and encompass all the matzos. You didn't cover them, and you took from those which are above the rim of the vessel on the entire vessel. It's not sure it works. Mishmur says, but you can lie that it does work. In any event, the Arukh HaShulchan says that putting on that sheet is also like combining by vessel. Truth is, if you have the sheet, you don't need to have the keli. The Halacha says that is if you put them into the sheet and put the sheet then also on top of the matzah, so it's like a wrapper, not just a cover. The Gemara says if they're on a tablet and there's a sheet on top of it, that's no good. But the Mishabur is not Mesubak if that's in fact the case. It sounds in the Arukh HaShulchan that it is good enough, even if it's on a tablet, as long as there's a sheet on top of it. So too, if every dough had the proper shear, when you wanted to aside from one on all of them, you could all join them together in a huge container or under a huge sheet. If you do it on a sheet, you don't require a tzir of kli. It has to be joined together by a vessel. They have to be in proximity to each other. Rishbur notes you don't even have to have them touch each other because the house joins them together. But that's only without kalim. But if in their keli, you have to bring the kalim together and they have to be open on top. Arukh HaShulchan doesn't seem to have that point. The Arukh HaShulchan seems to hold that they have to be in the same keli. Anyway, Arukh HaShulchan continues. Even though, and perhaps this is Mishabur talking about because it doesn't have to be united by being in the same vessel. Kaimalon, as we call chalas chutzlaretz, you can eat and then take off at the end. Zelbis achat, that's why one batter. Havlo says, but not from one batter or another batter. Gimel v'nim sofi says shlosh madregos. So there are three levels. Im yesh b'isa kishir chalav afa. If the dough has the measure of challah and you baked it, you can eat it if you first and then after it's separate the challah and so b'chutzlaretz. So it's only chutzlaretz a little better. It's oil. Much because you're there, Sham, like it says you're there. So Yosef. If it's two doughs or more, you want to take off from one or all of them. You can't eat until you separate the challah. You put all the matzahs in juxtaposition to each other. Take off from one or all of them. And so you don't need to have a kli join them together. Each dough by itself does not have the shir challah. So then you need a vessel join them together. Or the covering of a sheet in order to make them one shear. Before you put them together one vessel, you can eat from each one, because each one by itself is part from challah. But after you put them in one vessel, cover them with a sheet, you can't eat from them. This is the general principle. He says that which chalas chutzlaretz, they don't have to put them in proximity to each other. To a vessel or under a sheet together. Zerakshi lo should be sachas. It's only when it came from one dough. Otherwise, in chutzlaretz, you need to have the tzir of the keli or of the sheet. It's not sure what the Mishnah is talking about tzir of bias. So it came from one dough and then you separate it into small batters. Doubt. So, but therefore, you don't make each batter the shear of challah. Be very careful to put them together in one vessel. Not in two vessels. They don't all get in one vessel. You put two vessels next to each other. And put the sheet on top of both kelim. You take challah from one on all of it. You take challah immediately. And not leave until everybody you might forget. Once it's baked, you have to take challah immediately. But you get to basafis, you're not allowed to set aside challah. Also, you shouldn't come to mess up. That's what the women who are tsanua, meaning in this case the nashim tzidkanios, the women who doesn't properly do, they set aside immediately. Hey, so according to this, he says put the matzahs into two different vessels. They took from one vessel, they didn't take from the other vessel. The second keli has nothing to do about it. You can't take from the second vessel Hashem told me also, Isa Shnata B'Kli Rishana, meditating from the dough, which was already been pottered because it was initially needed with the first batch, because it took the matzahs and distributed them randomly between the two vessels. V'Yevtura came Shnata B'Kli Isa. It's exempt because it already took from that dough. So Shemav Shem in Abtura Chiyuv. So he's setting aside from that which is potter and that which is chayiv. I mean, nothing but Rishana Raki Matzah Achas. The issue is not going to bother. You took from the first one only for the first matzah. You have what to do. She told me Nashnia. Okay, so you she told me Nashnia. You should take from the second one. Mikama matzos from several matzos. So at least one of them is not from the first batch. Okay, going to Mikol Isa Yotze Aser matzos. So let's say from each batch of 10 matzos, Yikach Me'echad Eser matzos. Take from one of them 10 matzos. It's everything similar. I mean, Notal. No, I read that wrong. Boy, I read that wrong. You take the challah from 11 matzahs, because then for sure you got one in the second batch. Can't call it anything similar. I mean, nothing makama matzahs English things are going to be ready. Took from several matzahs in the first one. There's no way to fix the second one. Until you make another new batter. And put it into the second vessel. And you take it on whatever is in the second vessel. If you want to take from each matzah a little bit of challah, that's fine. You don't have to make a new dough then. If you made many batches, from some of them to somebody didn't take, then they all got mixed up. You can't separate from one or two or more because of the mixture. So maybe you take from those which challah is already taken. Taking from that which is exempt, that which is liable. You eat all the fixes which we clarified. It doesn't make them if each one had a shirchala or loya or did not have. That's not right. So we took from some of them from some not, and they got mixed up. So you have to take half of each every matzah. Or make another batter. You and take from it. Also, those got mixed together. One matzah which is for sure chayiv and challah. So you can take it on the others. And quote Pashtu, that's obvious. Zayin v'chein shegovin matzahs mikol batim kodem Pesach. When they collect matzahs, I guess for sure, for whatever reason, or for poor people from all batim for Pesach. Sheyesh kvar official challah, some took off challah, shadayin lo official, some didn't take challah, they sheyesh mamtin er Pesach, because some not the noshim tznos. Other people leave it on their Pesach. So you can't get a chal from all those that you collect together. Maybe you're going to take a chal off of those that are already exempted. It's like taking off from the exempt on that which is liable. So no just but to make another dough. The tzar for to join in the chol matzahs to all the matzahs together. But little man call take for it on all of them. Can I make a partial and say this is a widespread custom by us? Matzahs moschitim. Yeah, again the matzahs give out to the poor people as part of moschitim. You call ba'abayis. Shnayim b'shlosh matzahs, take from each ba'abas 2 or 3 matzahs. You have to take a challah from each one, or make a new batter for Pesach. Ches, b'day yishno sheish mishah serve the one who holds a shem sheisa achas ocha b'lecha chaka mafish. You can eat and continue and take a challah afterwards. So too, when you had a bunch of batches, and eat none of which had a shear, you schreibe they two of and they became liable by the basket joined together. You can eat and then set aside at the end. So you saw having mamish klishachas, because the fact that they were joined together makes sense. Literally, they were one batter. So Tanya and name of the Bachim Bichodesh. Yesh chokim said those argue. So the bezeh also the chokim are fresh enough in several batches. You can't eat before you set aside. The tzarich al trom dafkin and mukaf, you have to take off the challah, specifically when everything is in one large enclosed, enveloped area. Only if they were actually made in the same batter. Doesn't have to be in the same vessel, on the same sheet, etc. Not when they're joined together by the basket. That seems to be the actual halacha. The tiny name of the Chok Yaakov. So Masha Tes Rishayim, this it sounds like with Tes and Rishayim, Tzil Sal Enamoy Rak L'Chayv B'Chala. The joint together through the basket only makes them obligated Chayav, low having Mamash Kisa Achas, but not to make them one dough. In young Ochel B'Chakam Avish you can eat and then only set aside afterwards.